Okay, looks good. Okay, Bruce, what do you want to do? We just want to jump in here, do a quick intro, and
Yeah,
find some organic place to talk?
yeah, go for it.
Okay. Well, it's my pleasure to introduce Bruce Weaver. He has a exciting project coming online this fall called Apocalypse 2012, The World After Time Ends. It's a documentary that revives humanity's ancient spiritual past with Native American spiritualists, secular prophets, environmentalists, healers, and leaders in the global sustainability movement. Well, that's a mouthful.
Yeah.
Bruce, tell me as a sort of intro, how long you've been spending on this and where you've been in terms of the filming locations.
It's taken about 4 years of my life. The past year and a half has been in extensive editing. Prior to that was going down and actually visiting with Mamos, which are located in the Sierra Nevada mountain range of Colombia, South America. And I was down there for about a month and a half and got to visit with four distinct different Mamos. Two from the Kogi tribe and two from the Wiwa, and one was from the Arhuaco tribe. So all three different tribes there I got to interview surrounding what they see happening on the planet.
Very good.
And just to add a side note to that, the reason I actually went down there was because 20 years ago, I was inspired by the film by Alan Herrera, which was called From the Heart of the World, in which the filmmaker got the rare opportunity to go down there and visit with the Mamos and hear their messages where they were seeing the changes taking place in their ancestral lands. And so I was inspired by that, and I had the rare opportunity to go back 20 years later, and a doctor invited me down who was working with the Kogis and the Wiwas and the Arhuacos. And so, that's kind of my trip there in a nutshell. And then I've traveled all over the United States interviewing people also.
How is your definition of sustainability changed since you started this project?
That's a really, really great question. I think I would have to use Derek Jensen's work in regards to sustainability can just become another word that's used in the form of brainwashing or greenwashing, if you want to call it. And it just becomes a word that people can use as just a slapstick name. And that, he uses the word that sustainability is just a con job. And that appears in my film because we can be conned over the use of sustainability where it's really not sustainable. And I think I read something recently that, dysfunction can be sustainable. You know what I mean? So it can keep going on and on and on in a dysfunctional world. So my definition of sustainability is I don't think a lot of things can be sustainable, and it's pretty a complex word actually, and I don't think it should be used as easily as it is. And if it is used, I think people need to recheck on actually what sustainability really is. I don't know if that answers your question, but
Well, no, it answers it because it leads into a lot of the stuff that I'm working with is permaculture. I see my work coming from sustainability into permaculture because it activates the values I see that we need to use now. So I want to ask you if permaculture is something that Americans are ready to embrace and how they would embrace that practice.
well, besides my film, I've had the great opportunity to work with three really great permaculturists, Andrew Millison, Rico Zook, and Scott Pittman. And now I'm actually getting ready to interview Toby Hemingway, I think what people need to do is educate themselves on what permaculture is, however that is, through Google or whatever search engine, and to find out what permaculture is about, and go to their local library and check out Bill Mollison's book or David Holmgren's book or Toby Hemingway's book. All wonderful books on permaculture. And the great thing about permaculture, I think, is it's more of a cultural shift in living and designing our worlds more around nature versus the other way around. You know, we design our structures, our food cycles through, you know, nothing any way, shape, or form connected with nature other than we chop the trees down, but we have no conscious effect on what we're actually creating in a cycle. And I think permaculture has it's a roadmap. Permaculture is a roadmap for people to learn more about living on this planet in a more, you know, impactful way, and in turn a more harmonic way, a more, you know, way that again gives us a greater value of actually who we are, because we understand that we're an integral part of the earth versus, you know, the earth is just there to serve us.
Right, right. You're calling for a spiritual and mythic revival in Apocalypse 2012, which is exciting to me. It's right on the right path. Tell me this, Bruce, what is spiritual? No, I'm sorry. What is sacred to you today?
Well, I'm really coming on the end of my film, and after being in that for so long, a lot of people might look at me as being pessimistic, but I don't want to use either one of those words, optimistic or pessimism. I think I've lost sense of the sacred, to be honest with you, from being so deeply involved in following the news of the day, every day, all over the world, and having that network come into me, that I'm now going back out to explore actually what is sacred to me. And I can't really honestly answer that question. I think that's my journey. But in the sense of the film and this spiritual and mythical revival, you know, I think John Todd says it best, that we are seeing dramatic changes happening on the planet, and they're of mythic proportion. That's part of his words. It's of mythic proportion on what is actually going on. And once people start opening their eyes, I think the sacred is actually seeing and putting all the dots together to see that it's not just global warming, it's not just wars, it's not just earth changes happening. It's everything that's happening all around us. So I guess that's, you know, my mythological path is to, you know, find out what are we here for. We need a mythological revolution where we need the Camelot. We need the, you know, and Obama was supposed to represent that, but we're seeing the case that, you know, that's not true. He's not making change at all. He's just another puppet. Sorry about that. I'm going off track, but that's my answer to a spiritual and mythical revival. And I hope my film portrays that we need something greater vision on this planet. So I think permaculture, sustainability, all those words can be great, but I think it's the bottom line is we've lost the sense of the sacred, which is true.
Okay, well, I have a model of what I'm calling the sacred, with new alchemy and new mythology and permaculture at the corners of that triangle. I spoke to a Noetic Institute group last night and presented this model, and it was difficult for them to come up with what was sacred. A lot of the folks were talking about nature as sacred. I would say family, you know, harmonious family, it could be sacred. But there's a real void here, and I agree with you. I don't think we're going to find the next level of human being without a globally accepted and practiced and healthy view of sacred. So that's partly, my charge as well. Um, I'm now suddenly forced to talk about the post-crash social order. I'm compelled to talk about it because it's coming, and I think I'm interested in how you see society after the banks crash and the volcanoes erupt, et cetera, and the gas is gone. What does a post-crash social life look to you?
Um, wow, post. I don't know. I think we're already going through all those signs and symbols that we're actually already going through that, and a lot of people have it harder than others. And I think that's actually why we're seeing permaculture and just going back to growing your own food in your garden is a huge step in actually going into that post crash. We're seeing those people who are a little bit more conscious in degrees
Mm-hmm.
of consciousness that are doing something about it. They're taking power into their own hands to create what I would call transitional communities. And that's a big word, is transition Bellingham, Washington, or transition wherever city you're in. There's transition communities that are preparing for this. And some people maybe gravitate towards peak oil. Maybe people gravitate more towards earth changes. But I think everybody's going to have their different opinions, and again, different levels of spiritual growth or spiritual attunement that they can actually um, be in a post crash and actually not kill each other. Because I can give you a dark scenario and I can give you a lighter scenario, and I think they're very similar to the Hopi prophecy, and that's the path of war and peace, and the peace that are going to be killing people even in a post crash, because there's not enough food for a city of Phoenix or LA. The bigger cities are going to have bigger problems, because in smaller communities are going to be better prepared because they're already creating local food economies where,
Right,
you
right.
know, so that's kind of my vision of a post-crash is the smaller local communities are already ahead of the game with transition governments or transition communities.
Are you uh, anti-capitalist, green capitalist? How do you see capitalism in the post-crash?
Well, again, I think we use words so easily in the English language that there's no meaning to it. Capitalism, yay, nay. I can say no, yes. I don't think I'm either. I just think I think the model's wrong. That's all I can say. Is it's not, oh, we need to create a different capitalism, or this capitalism's bad, or there could be a better one. I just think it's going to evolve naturally through a crash, through a collapse, that we all see that, oh, wow, maybe a barter system works better, or so something that's more of a solution oriented versus like, oh, capitalism sucks, versus like, well, maybe the model's wrong. It's just a bad model. We create a new model through permaculture even. So
Yep. The people in power in post-crash times will still want that power, correct? Why would they give it up?
yeah, I don't think they're ever going to give it up. And I think that's why, the horrific scenario is that humanity is going to be set back in ways that we can't imagine, that we're going to be set back on ourselves to see ourselves, because we don't see ourselves, and that our brain and our intellect got more into the money aspect. And yes, those people will always continue, but I think it will naturally evolve where they are weeded out. Those people are weeded out, just like a weed is pulled from the ground. It's no different. And good people will die, bad people will die, and there will be great change from all of the prophetic messages that will change that naturally. It will have to. And is there a possibility it will start back up where you have gangs and people that want power? I don't think so. Not, again, based on my understanding of the vision of prophecy, is it's actually a shift in our consciousness. So, you know, it'll shift. I feel it'll evolve.
It'll evolve after the crash or before it? What's the paradigm there?
Well, I don't, it could of course possibly shift back to capitalistic. I think the Western model of civilization is everywhere in the world now. It's in China, it's in Dubai, it's in this, and it's like the Atlantean myth, you know, that there's these other cultures that create this grandiose idea of huge sandcastles in the sky, you know, and that it collapses and there's the opportunity to start anew. And it could easily go back to that. But I think the leverage and the power is going to switch over to the light side. I see that. The
Hmm.
possibility is there for that. But
So your film talks about the light side version, the light version.
yeah, I think once you get through the first three chapters that, you know, it starts getting lighter and lighter. But the honesty has to be so brutal, you know, that we got to get our heads out of the dirt and out of the ground and see that, you know, we're destroying the planet, and it's not just about global warming. It's not just about one thing or another thing. It's a interconnected assortment of evolutionary opportunities, I would say. And I think there was a saying that I heard that was like, rapid change is an opportunity for evolution in consciousness. That's what it creates. And a leap in consciousness. And that's what I think we're being presented through all of this, through a crash scenario, through more banking failures, more economic collapses around the world, and earth changes on top of that, that, you know, it's just going to continue to show us every day and every week and every month that there's an opportunity here to make a leap in consciousness, as Dr. John Todd would say in my film. That's the opportunity here, to have a leap in consciousness. Those are his words.
Hmm. Well, that's optimistic. That's good. I appreciate that. I think we need a hell of a lot more tools and models and discussion about those to make it through this. But that's just my opinion. Let's end our conversation for today. Tell me a little bit about the new mythologies of post-crash life. What does that mean to you, if anything? Who's writing these new mythologies for us? What do they mean to us?
Well, I think any mythology includes the hero myth, and that there's a young generation of people out there, and an older generation, Thomas Berry being in my film as one who's passed on, who was the mythological dream changer for our time in the 20th century. And the younger generation should look into the work of like Thomas Berry or Dr. John Todd or Peter Russell, and you know, that's where I think the tools are going to come from, is from people. The information, the knowledge is already there. It's been there for thousands and thousands of years. It's just that we've lost our way, I believe. So, you know, how that myth comes about is, I think it's an awakening of the 21st century shamans, I would say.
Interesting. And do you consider yourself a shaman, Bruce?
I think I have an archetype of a shaman. Sure, I would call it the mask shaman, actually. So yeah, I have some masks right over here, actually, that are shaman's mask.
Interesting. That's a bold thing to say as a Westerner. I know that because I've interviewed a lot of shaman, and they all very skittish about even proclaiming themselves to be something like that. So, but I see you as a healer without any question. You're trying to do
I,
good, right?
I would see it more not as a healer, but more of a techno shaman who is utilizing the tools of video,
Hmm.
to show the world another way. That's kind of what I'm wanting to use my tools for. I think I have a budding shaman that hasn't bloomed into, say, the fruit yet, but
Okay.
I think it's going to be more of a shaman that's a techno shaman, an information diversity shaman that offers more information that way versus like, healing. But I've studied that and I've met many, many different healers on that path for sure.
Cool. So in closing, would you consider Apocalypse 2012 myth building? Myth building for the next stage? God help us if we get there. Is that too grandiose or not?
Well, using the word apocalypse can seem scary to most people. And when they hear the word apocalypse, I think they hear the word doomsday or the end, or versus the apocalypse is known as the unveiling. It's the lifting of the veil, so to speak. And that's when we actually lift the veil, which is, I think, what my film represents, and see through beyond our created reality, our American dream, our all that. The veil is lifted and we can see beyond that we're something greater than that. So yes, I would say that Apocalypse is 2012 is a way, it is a myth. It's a mythological journey for sure. My film is a journey. I think it takes people to some very dark places, but some very real places and real things to think about. And I don't think it says there's an answer. I just think it looks at all the different prophecies and puts them in context of like, it's not the end, it's actually the beginning.
Awesome. So when is this thing going to hit the theaters and how is it being distributed?
I don't know that it's going to hit the theaters. That's a hard market to get into. And I produced, directed, and everything's on a shoestring budget for me on this film. So it's being distributed by Reality Entertainment. And I think he mentioned August or September, but it's a possibility it might be sooner. So yeah, I would just look for it on Reality Entertainment. You can Google search that and find Apocalypse 2012.
So is this going to be a web movie only? Is that what you're saying?
No, it's not going to be a web movie. He's a distributor and can distribute it through his own channels and sell it through his own channels. So it'll be available on DVD.
Will it be on cable TV, for instance?
There's always that possibility.
Okay.
I can't say, oh, here, go find it on cable because, that takes, again, finding that channel for that. So I think my channel right now is going to be DVD through Reality Entertainment.
Gotcha. Well said. Okay. Well, I'm happy we got our techno shamans together, Bruce.
All
It's
right.
good to see you. You're looking very good. You're colorful. I love the orange and the green thing going on
All
there.
right.
See you.
All right. Thank you.
Peace.